Hi, the quilting blockheads. Welcome back. It's month 4. So at the end of month 4, that means we're halfway done. And that's really exciting. So month 4 isn't a hard block to make at all. The only thing is you have to make a lot of them. So you need to get started. Um, I'm going to show you a few tips. Many of you that have used the Tucker trimmer before, this is going to seem really easy. So don't just bear with me and watch, because there's a couple, maybe there's a new tip that you might find. Okay, remember, you should be using our instructions to cut, and then at the bottom of our instructions it tells you which of their instructions to follow and which of their instructions that you need to use our video for. So this month you'll do the very first step, and the very first step is to draw a diagonal line on all of your white squares, or 2 diagonal lines. Remember that if you have a magic wand or some other product that does this same thing, now is the time to use it. You will have 32 white squares that you're going to draw a line on. Okay, so that'll take you a while. Now, we can thank Jan in our shop for this tip that she watched Deb Tucker from Tucker Trimmer, and she found this tip, and it's really great. And you take this really fine sandpaper and you put your block on the really fine sandpaper, and then your little magic wand on top of it, and guess what? Nothing moves. Well, it moves, but not. It holds it in place, and it's really easy to draw the line. And because you're drawing the line on the diagonal, the sandpaper keeps the fabric from stretching as you draw the line. Okay, remember, if you don't have a magic wand or another tool like it, you can draw a diagonal line from point to point, and then you can draw a line 1/4 inch on either side. All right, so if you don't have a ruler, that's or a magic wand, that's a way to use just a regular ruler. All right, now if you bring in all of your blocks finished at the end of month 4, we will have a prize for you. So it's an incentive to get caught up, okay? We do have this for sale in the shop. Okay, so you can buy it just one piece, and I've been using this piece now for quite a while, so it doesn't wear out. Okay, so you don't really need a whole package of it from the hardware store. All right, so the next step is you're going to take a black square and a white square, and these are 5-inch squares, and you have 32 black and 32 white. And now we're going to sew a line. Okay, actually 2 lines. We're going to sew on these lines and remember, keep your edges, your points together. Okay, that's what you want, your points together. Okay, and remember to use a foot on your machine that is easy for you to sew on a line. So obviously your 1/4 inch foot is not your best choice here. Don't bother to backstitch, because we're going to trim this block. Okay, that's one line. Thread. Now the other line. Did you see me go for the button? Because I've been sewing on a different machine that has a button to raise and lower the presser with. Okay, now we sewed. I'm going to get rid of my threads. I don't like them hanging. Okay, and now we're gonna cut these apart right down the center. And if you have a shorter ruler, it's much easier to use than the big long ruler. So this is the good time to get out that shorter ruler if you have one. Okay, and cut on the diagonal. Now we're going to press. I'm going to press these seams open because I'm going to use the Tucker trimmer, and the Tucker trimmer is a lot easier to use the less bulk you have, and pressed open makes them less bulky. And remember, this is a diagonal seam, so you want to be careful not to stretch this as you press it. But notice I turn it over because I want to be sure there's no folds here. Okay. Now we're going to use the Tucker trimmer, and we want to turn these into 4.5-inch squares. So remember, on the Tucker trimmer, there's a half circle and a full circle. If you're cutting halves, you have the half circle at the top. Okay, so I'm going to take the line, the equator, and put it on my piece, and with the half circle up here. And now what I'm going to do is adjust, and I don't have a lot to trim. I just want to make sure that I have a little to trim here, and I'm going to have a little to trim there. And as you see, it's not a lot, but I will have some to trim. If you don't, you can adjust it up or down. Like I could go up just a little bit if I needed to.
So you're lining it up on the 4.5-inch line?
I'm lining it up on the seam line with the equator, and then I'm looking at my edges here, and then the 4.5-inch line here. And I want to make sure I'm a little bit over the 4 so that when I turn it I can trim. Okay, so I don't have a lot to trim here. I have a little bit. So I'm going to skim off what I've got. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it so this corner comes down here. And I can put this back on, and now I'm lining it up on the 4.5-inch line and the equator. Remember, it's important that this line goes right into the corners. So I want that line lined up and the 4.5-inch line, and now you see I have a little bit to trim. Sometimes it takes a little wiggling to get it all in place. And remember, the Tucker trimmer is not a non-slip ruler, so you have to really put your weight on it. I have Invisigrip on mine. That does help, but it still doesn't make it as non-slip as the Quilter Select. Okay, we can do it one more time. Start with it like this. The equator with the half circle at the top goes here. Okay. Whoop, I gotta have my blade out. And I'm gonna trim these two sides, my right side and the top. And then I'm gonna turn it and have this corner down here now. And I'm gonna put it on the equator again in my 4.5-inch lines. And I have a little to trim here and not much at all to trim there. Now I have two perfect 4.5-inch square, half square triangles. So you're going to do that until you have 64 of these.
Whoa.
So that's a lot. Okay, one other tip. Okay, after you make 64 of those, that's step 2. Step 3, you're going to sew strip sets. And you're going to sew a black to a color. And you have all the colors listed. You'll see them on your cutting directions. After you sew that, check that all the way along here and make sure that this measures 4.5 inches. If it doesn't, then your seam, you made a mistake. There's not a good 1/4-inch seam. So don't start trimming this up into your 2.5-inch sections until you make sure that that measures 4.5 inches.
You can lay it under your big, long 24-inch
Yes,
ruler
to do that.
Measure a
The
lot
other
more.
thing is you're going to want to press toward the black, because then when you turn them to make these squares, they'll nest. So press everything toward the black and make sure that this measures 4.5 inches before you start cutting up your 2.5-inch pieces. Okay? So that you've got a chance to fix this strip set before you start to cut it up.
All right. Good luck. You've got a lot of sewing to do, but it's really not hard. So see you soon, hopefully with all of your blocks caught up at the end of month 4. Bye.